Did you know that the flood myth of Noah's Ark is only one of many from around the globe? Stick around to learn a little more about flood myths from the ancient world. Hello and welcome to World History Encyclopedia. My name is Kelly, and in today's video we are going to have a look at a few of the different flood myths from around the world. Don't forget, the easiest way to support us is by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel and hitting that little bell icon for notifications so you don't miss out on any new uploads. Although the biblical story of Noah's Ark is the best known, numerous cultures all around the globe and throughout history have developed their own versions of the flood myth, with the oldest one being the Eridu Genesis, also known as the Sumerian Flood myth from Mesopotamia. It is thought that this particular flood myth influenced the others in the Mesopotamian region, including the Gilgamesh flood myth and the Genesis flood myth, found in the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Old Testament. You may already be familiar with the story of Noah and his ark. Today, we're going to have a look at the Eridu Genesis and the Genesis flood myth, as well as flood myths from ancient Greece, ancient China, and the Maya of Mesoamerica. These myths all emphasize the cultural value of gratitude, respect for one's origins and past, and the necessity for humility and reverence before one's gods. By now, you may be asking yourself, why did so many different cultures develop a myth centered around a flood? Was there ever actually a flood big enough that it would have impacted so many different regions? The answer seems to depend on one's personal beliefs. Those who believe in the literal truth of the Bible claim there was a worldwide flood, only survived by Noah, his family, and the animals he brought on board. The fact that so many different civilizations have a great flood myth, they claim, supports the truth of the Bible, because there must have been a worldwide flood to inspire all these stories. Modern-day scholars mostly disagree with this, citing evidence from Mesopotamia and elsewhere of localized floods at different times, but none suggesting a global flood. Robert Ballard, the famous underwater archaeologist who discovered the wreck of Titanic, claims there were a number of floods in different regions from melting glaciers at the end of the last ice age. He bases this claim on evidence from the Black Sea, where he has identified ancient shorelines under the water. Melting glaciers caused catastrophic flooding as the Mediterranean Sea spilled over the Bosphorus into the adjacent lowlands, forming what is now known as the Black Sea. Survivors interpreted this as worldwide because, as far as they knew, it was. Imagine a territory as large as the Black Sea, which is about the same size as California, being violently flooded by an ocean spilling over. Ballard's claim is supported by other archaeologists and scholars who maintain that local floods inspired myths regarding a great flood, and these myths were then repeated in different forms by various civilizations. The earliest version of the Great Flood myth written down that has been found so far is the Sumerian Flood story, also known as the Eridu Genesis. The Eridu Genesis is the oldest text referencing the Great Flood from Mesopotamia, but is seen in later texts from the region like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Bible. The tablet dates to around 2300 BCE, but was passed down through oral tradition previously and is believed to be much older. The Akkadian and Babylonian text titled Atrahasis, which is another text of the Great Flood, is often used to fill in the gaps where the Eridu Genesis is damaged. So, let's get into the story. The Eridu Genesis begins with the creation of the world, the Sumerians, known as the black-headed people, and then the animals. After the people and the animals are created, the gods begin to create the cities, with the first being Eridu. Each city has a god to oversee it, which is the beginning of the concept of patron gods, also seen in other cultures. Then the Eridu Genesis tablet is damaged, and the next thing we know is the gods decide to destroy humanity with a flood. According to Atrahasis, the reason the gods want to destroy humanity is because there are too many people and they're too loud. So, first, the god Enlil sends a drought, a plague, and then a famine. But each time, the god Enki tells the people what to do to save themselves. The gods then swear an oath not to aid the humans. And then we are introduced to the central character, Ziadsura, who is a king of the city Shuruppak and a priest. Since Enki swore the oath and could no longer help the humans, instead he speaks to a wall, knowing that Ziadsura is behind it and can hear everything he's saying. More lines of the Eridu tablet are missing here, but it is assumed that it would then detail Ziadsura's creation of a large boat, which he filled with animals and the seed of mankind. The flood goes on for 7 days and nights, and then the sea quietens, and the sun god Utu Shamash comes out. Ziadsura makes a hole in his boat so the god's rays can enter. Ziadsura then sacrifices to the sun god, and then we're missing more lines. But it is assumed that the flood waters subside and Ziadsura comes out of his boat. The gods regret their decision to destroy humanity and are glad that Ziadsura saved their creations, and so they reward him with eternal life in paradise. Next, let's have a look at the Genesis flood narrative, the great flood myth found in the biblical book of Genesis 6-9. It has been noted that the flood story in the Bible has many similarities to the earlier flood myth stories from Mesopotamia, such as from the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Eridu Genesis, which makes sense since it's believed that they were inspirations for this narrative. In the Noah's Ark tale, God regrets creating humanity because they have become wicked and decides to destroy them with a great flood. Only Noah is found righteous in God's eyes, and so God tells him to build a giant boat, the Ark, and gather 2 of every animal and his family on board. God then sends torrential rains for 40 days and 40 nights and drowns the world. Eventually, the waters subside and God is sorry for what he has done. He places the rainbow in the sky as a sign of his pledge to never again destroy the world with a flood. There are a few different flood myths from Greek mythology, but we're just going to have a look at the best known, the story of Deucalion and Pyrrha. This myth can be found in ancient texts such as the Bibliotheca, also known as the Library of Greek Mythology, by Apollodorus or Pseudo-Apollodorus, and the later Roman text Metamorphoses by Ovid. The myth of Deucalion and Pyrrha recounts the story of the end of the First Bronze Age. Deucalion is the son of Prometheus, who married Pyrrha, the daughter of Epimetheus and Pandora, the first woman. Yeah, they were cousins. Welcome to Greek mythology in a nutshell. Basically, Zeus wanted to bring an end to humanity, who was referred to as the race of bronze. And so he poured an abundance of rain from the heavens to flood the earth and destroy the humans. Except Prometheus had warned his son, who built a chest and filled it with provisions, and then spent the next 9 days and 9 nights in the chest with Pyrrha. They washed ashore at Parnassos, and when the rain stopped, Deucalion offered a sacrifice to Zeus. Zeus sends Hermes to grant Deucalion whatever he wishes, and Deucalion chose to have people back on Earth. On Zeus's orders, Deucalion and Pyrrha took up stones and threw them over their heads. Deucalion's stones became men, and Pyrrha's became women, and the world was repopulated. The Chinese flood story has 2 versions. The best known recounts how the Yellow River overflowed and destroyed the farmers' crops. Yu the Great worked constantly to control the flooding for 13 years and was so dedicated to the welfare of the people that he did not return home once, even though he passed by his house at least 3 times. His devotion to the common good inspired others to do the same, and the flood was finally controlled by people working together with Yu. Yu then established order and dynastic rule with the prehistoric Xia dynasty. The Yellow River remained in its bed in deference to Yu the Great. only overflowing afterwards to a certain point on either side to help instead of harm farmers by spreading fertile silt. The second version begins with the divine dragons who lived in the Yellow River and had become angered by the selfish ways of the people living along its banks. They stirred the waters until they overflowed, and many, but not all, people were drowned. The goddess Nuwa, the Compassionate, who had created human beings with her consort/brother Fushi, mended the broken hearts of the survivors and repopulated the land with people of humble hearts who would respect the divine so the dragons would not become angered again. Nuwa originally made each human by hand, but that became tiresome, so she created the concept of marriage, so humans could reproduce themselves. Fushi gave humans fire, knowledge of agriculture, and writing so they could record and remember their past. The Maya flood story comes from the Popol Vuh, the Quiché Maya holy book of creation. The gods created the earth and then wanted to make humans to care for it. They tried various materials, but the humans had one flaw or another and were destroyed. Finally, they decided they would make people out of wood. The wooden people looked like the gods wanted people to look like, but they had no minds or souls and walked on all fours. And, the biggest problem, they did not remember their creator, Hurakan, the heart of heaven, and offered no worship, had no gratitude. They thought only of themselves and reproduced until the world was full of them, crawling about, but having no higher purpose than feeding and mating. So Hurakan stirred up the heavens and sent a powerful rain upon the earth that drowned the wooden humans, and they were wiped out. The gods then continued their attempts to make humans and failed, until they tried making them out of corn. The people made of corn had hearts of gratitude and remembered their creator, and these became the Maya. Why do you think so many different cultures would have created a flood myth? What similarities, other than the flood, can you see between the examples we have given? Let us know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and hit that little bell icon for notifications so you don't miss out on our new videos every Tuesday and Friday. This video was brought to you by World History Encyclopedia. For more great articles and interactive content, head to our website via the link below. World History Encyclopedia is a non-profit organisation, so if you'd like to support our work, you can head to our Patreon via the link in the top corner of the screen or via the Patreon link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon with another video.